Life is not what you were told. It is not a story of honest effort where the one who works the most wins. It is not a clean tale where goodness is always rewarded, nor a fair board where everyone starts from the same point. Life looks more like a rigged game in which some are born with marked cards in their favor and others arrive when the match is nearly over. And if you do not understand it, if you insist on playing by rules no one respects anymore, you will only be another naive sacrifice so others can live better. Listen to me carefully. I did not come to comfort you. I came to explain life as it truly works. What you do with this truth afterward will be your choice and your condemnation or your liberation. Since childhood, you were programmed. They told you, be good, be humble, do not bother, do not make noise, do not think too highly of yourself, wait your turn. They taught you to lower your head before you had anything to protect, to ask for permission, even to dream. They gave you false heroes, stories of sacrifice, so you would identify with the victim and never with the one holding the whip. But life does not reward the most obedient. It rewards the one who understands the game. Your school was not a temple of knowledge. It was a factory of obedience. It taught you to memorize, not to think, to follow schedules, to fear mistakes, not to use them to grow. While you worked hard to be a good student, others were learning something more important: how to manipulate desires, how to read the weakness of others, how to make people work for them. They grew up understanding that life is power, perception, and strategy. You grew up believing life is effort, sincerity, and patience. And now you do not understand why you tear your soul apart and remain stuck in the same place, while those who seem to do less rise higher. It is not magic, it is design. Life moves through three invisible forces: interest, fear, and desire. Everything you see, work, love, friendship, politics, family, is contaminated by these elements. Whoever does not see them is used by them. Whoever understands them uses them. Interest is the real currency. No one helps you just because. No one stays only for love. No one is loyal without a reason. Behind every sweet word, there is a calculation. Even you act from interest, but they taught you to feel guilt for admitting it. They made you believe that thinking of yourself first is selfishness, while they enrich themselves because they put themselves first. Fear is the chain. People do not stay where they are unhappy because of a lack of options, but because of an excess of fear. Fear of losing, being alone, failing. The system does not need bars to control you. It only needs to plant enough fear in your mind. Fear of quitting that miserable job. Fear of leaving that draining relationship. Fear of abandoning the mediocre life you already know. Desire is the leash they use to guide you. They promise success, love, beauty, recognition. They sell you the idea that if you buy this, if you dress like that, if you think like everyone else, someday you will be accepted. What they never tell you is that desire is never satisfied. It only changes its target. When you believe you have reached something, they invent a new goal to keep you running in circles. Life, if you do not awaken, becomes that. You running behind a carrot you will never bite. Now hear this. Life will not change to adapt to you. You must change to navigate it without being devoured. The first lesson is cruel but necessary. No one is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your partner, not the government. If divine help exists, it only activates when you move, when you decide to leave the role of victim. Faith without action is an excuse to remain asleep. The second lesson: whatever you do not control will control you. your emotions, your impulses, your thoughts, your time, your money, your relationships. Life does not tolerate emptiness. If you do not direct something, someone else will. Not controlling your emotions means anyone can manipulate you with a few words. Not controlling your time means everyone can use it except you. Not controlling your money means you will work your whole life paying interest to others. Carl Jung said, "Your shadow strengthens you." The third lesson is this: no one rewards you for working endlessly, but for becoming someone who cannot be easily replaced. You can break your back for 12 hours every single day and still remain disposable. If anyone can do what you do, then your effort holds little weight. But the one who becomes rare, unique, strategic, the one who masters a kind of knowledge that only a few possess, is the one who can eventually sit at the table and negotiate conditions, income, and respect, not because they are kinder, but because they have become useful and scarce. Carl Jung would say that individuation itself turns you into someone whose value cannot be duplicated, because you begin expressing something that emerges from the depths of your own psyche instead of copying the world around you. Life does not reward silent sacrifice. It rewards valuable rarity. Look at yourself with brutal honesty. How many decisions in your life were genuinely yours, and how many were inherited from others? The career you chose, the job you maintain, the way you love, even the way you dress. How much of that emerged from your true will, and how much came from the pressure to fit in? You spent years trying to be accepted by people who do not accept themselves. Jung explained that this happens when the persona becomes a cage, and you end up living according to roles that were never meant for you. You tried to prove your worth to people who don't even know what they want. You used your strength to sustain structures that crush you. Life does not punish you for being ignorant. It punishes you for insisting on remaining that way. Every time you feel like you cannot continue, it is not merely physical exhaustion. It is your soul informing you that you are living too far from who you truly are. The self tries to speak, but instead of listening, you numb yourself with social media, food, shows, parties, anything that avoids the uncomfortable question: what am I doing with my existence? Let me tell you something no one ever dared to say. You have the right to betray the expectations others placed on you. You were not born to fulfill your parents' dreams, your friends' model of success, or the rules of a system that prefers you obedient. Jung would remind you that loyalty to the self always matters more than loyalty to the mask. If you are going to be loyal to someone, be loyal to your vision, to the child you once were, and who still waits inside you for someone brave enough to choose what he truly loves. Life is brief, humiliating, and sometimes brutal. Yes, but it is also moldable. Whoever is unwilling to lose something will never gain anything. You were taught to fear loss, when in reality, loss is the doorway to transformation. Losing a toxic relationship, a useless job, an identity that no longer fits, will always hurt. But that pain is the price of your next version. Life tears away what you do not dare to release, and the more tightly you cling, the more violent the process becomes. There is another truth you must understand if you want to survive without turning cynical. Most people do not want to awaken. They want entertainment. That is why they laugh when you speak of change, criticize you when you improve, and feel offended when you set boundaries. You are not crazy for feeling different. You are ahead. And everyone who advances before the rest carries a weight, the loneliness of the one who sees what others fight to ignore. The life of the awakened is not easy, but it is the only one worth living. You will lose friends who are only comfortable with your weaker version. You will unsettle relatives who preferred you submissive. You will be judged by those who feel attacked when you refuse to remain a slave. Get used to being called selfish, strange, or cold. These are labels the herd uses when a sheep realizes it was always a wolf. Now let's talk about time. They made you believe you had plenty. It isn't true. Life is a silent countdown. Every day you rise to hate a routine you chose yourself. You burn a piece of your story that will never return. There is no rehearsal, no "I'll start later," only decisions or excuses. Think about this. If today someone told you that you had 5 years left to live, would you continue living the same way? Would you keep tolerating humiliations in a place that does not respect you? Would you keep pretending love where only habit remains? Would you keep postponing the project that makes your chest pulse? Life always asks the same question. Does what you are doing today deserve a day of your existence? If the answer is no, then you are betraying your life out of fear. You do not need a perfect plan. You need an imperfect movement. Change your environment, start a business, study something that strengthens you, end a relationship, set a boundary, anything that shatters inertia. Life respects the one who moves, not the one who complains. Carl Jung would remind you that love is another place where people lose themselves. They told you that loving means giving everything, enduring everything, understanding everything. False. Loving without discernment is the fastest way to destroy yourself. Love without respect becomes dependence. Love without boundaries becomes abuse. Love without self-love becomes a kind of slavery. Life will never ask you to sacrifice yourself for anyone. The right person will never demand that you abandon your dreams, your principles, or your dignity. If keeping someone by your side requires you to stop being yourself, then you are not in a relationship but in an emotional prison decorated with comforting phrases. True love does not break you, it arranges you. It demands growth, not diminishment. It confronts your shadows, not rewards you for staying a victim. Remember this: if someone can shatter your peace simply by leaving, it is because you gave away the power you should have kept for yourself. Life does not punish you for loving. It punishes you for idolizing. Life is also a silent war for resources, money, attention, status. Money is not everything, but without it, you lose the ability to choose. Prolonged poverty is not only lack of money, it is lack of options. And the one without options ends up accepting any deal, any humiliation, any lie. I am not telling you to obsess over money, but to respect it as a strategic tool. Learn how it is created, multiplied, protected. Stop thinking like a pawn who only works for a wage, and begin thinking like a strategist who builds systems, skills, and relationships that generate value even when he is absent. Life is clear. The one who cannot handle money loses it. The one who despises it keeps it far away. The one who honors it without worshipping it is entrusted with it. Constant work is necessary, but not enough. You need financial intelligence, discipline, and the coldness to renounce immediate pleasures for future power. Every time you spend to impress people who do not matter, you sell your freedom for temporary applause. And now comes the most uncomfortable point: your radical responsibility. Everything you have allowed is partly your responsibility. Not what happened when you were a child, not the blows you could not avoid, but the way you continue letting those wounds rule your present. Life is not fair, but you are not obligated to remain the version shaped for you. The moment you say, "Enough, from today I stop blaming," and begin building. Something breaks in the invisible structure that chains you. It is not magic, it is focus. You stop wasting energy on complaints and redirect it toward action. Horrible things will happen to you. Yes, your heart will be broken. You will be betrayed. You will lose people you love. But then you have two options. Use those experiences to justify your mediocrity or turn them into fuel to become unstoppable. Life does not care about excuses, only results. If you made it this far, you already know. Life is difficult, yet it is moldable. It is not a fairy tale, nor an inevitable tragedy. It is a quiet battlefield where the naive are devoured and the awakened. As Carl Jung taught, learn to face the reality they once feared. What should you do from today onward? Observe before you speak. Stay silent before revealing your intentions. Choose before you try to please. Learn before you judge. Move before you feel ready. Treat your mind as the most essential tool you possess. What you consume, repeat, and believe becomes the way you act, and your actions shape your destiny. Surround yourself with people unafraid to tell you uncomfortable truths. Step away from those who feed on your weakness, from those who resent when you grow, from those who appear only when things go wrong for you. They seek company in failure. You are not required to pull anyone toward the light. You are only required not to betray yourself. Life explained is this: you were born on uneven ground. You were programmed to obey. You were filled with fear, so you wouldn't change. You were given desires created by others. You were told suffering is noble. You were kept from learning that you can rewrite the game. From now on, you can keep running with everyone else or stop and decide. Decide which story you want to live, what price you will pay, and which voice you will follow. The herd that puts you to sleep or your inner consciousness, the one Jung believed could awaken yourself. Carl Jung is simply showing you the map. The path is yours. But remember, if you refuse to choose, others will choose for you, and that will lead you to a life you'll never truly feel is yours. Do with these words what you will. You can shut them down and return to the comfort of your old life, or you can let this discomfort transform you. Life does not reward the one who understands the message. It rewards the one who uses it. Using it means something simple. Change your day, not your speech. Your life is not the dream you post online. Your life is your mornings. What you do when no one sees you. What you think when you wake. What you decide when you are tired, frustrated, or alone. There you see whether you are awake or still living as cattle. Each day, you choose one of two paths: reaction or creation. In reaction, you wake up, check your phone, absorb drama, envy other lives, run where others call, and put out fires that were never yours. You end the day exhausted, feeling you did nothing for yourself, yet you repeat the cycle tomorrow. In what Carl Jung called conscious creation, you choose what matters before the world pulls you away. You design an hour of mental battle in your favor. Studying, training, building, planning, writing, selling, learning. It does not matter what, as long as it adds to the life you say you want. The difference between a mediocre life and a powerful one is not found in heroic moments, but in small decisions repeated like ritual. The mediocre person is ruled by emotion. The strategist, in Jung's view, uses emotion as fuel. If you feel tired, you train anyway, adjusting intensity. If you feel insecure, you move forward, but observe more. If you feel alone, you keep building. Knowing loneliness is the price of leaving places that dim your light. Life respects the one who keeps walking, even when knees tremble. You must also understand something. You do not need everyone to understand you. You need not betray yourself. Do not explain your dreams to those who know excuses. Do not seek approval from those who never dared to face discomfort. Do not share your plans with people who celebrate your failures and shrink at your victories. Practice strategic silence. Work in the dark. Let your results speak. Noise belongs to the weak who have nothing to show. Above all, learn to live with your shadow. Within you exist selfishness, anger, envy, and desires. You are not a saint, nor a monster. You are human. Whoever denies their darkness becomes its slave. Whoever recognizes it can direct it. Your anger, when directed with awareness, becomes the strength you need to establish boundaries. Your envy, when examined without shame, reveals what you truly long to create. And your ambition, when guided with intention, becomes the discipline that frees you from the mediocrity most people silently accept. Life does not demand purity from you, it demands congruence. Do not pretend to be absolute light. Become someone who understands how to navigate their own darkness without harming themselves or surrendering their power to others. And remember that everything ends. Your opportunities, your relationships, even your body will fade one day. Death is not a distant tragedy reserved for others. It is the one certainty you share with every king and every beggar who has ever walked the earth. If you dare to look at it directly, not to sink into despair, but to realign your priorities, it becomes your greatest ally. Ask yourself, if I were to die in 5 years, what parts of my current life would look ridiculous? Which arguments would embarrass me? Which fears would seem pathetic? Which dreams would hurt to know I never attempted? Living with death in mind, as Carl Jung taught, is not being dark, it is being conscious. It pushes you to stop postponing, to stop living for approval, to stop wasting energy on battles that never mattered. You become selective with your time, your attention, and your connections. That is the secret almost no one wants to face. Life only becomes clear when you accept that it is not eternal. In the end, everything comes down to a choice. Do you want the comfort of fitting in, or the discomfort of building yourself? Do you want the temporary sweetness of approval, or the deeper peace of looking in the mirror and knowing you remained loyal to who you truly are? Most will choose the soft path, the warm bed of conformity. You decide whether you stay there numb or rise, even if it hurts, and begin shaping the life you feel you deserve. Not with pretty words, but with fierce, steady actions. I can explain life to you in 20 minutes, but living it with courage for the next 20 years is your responsibility. Do it in silence, do it afraid, do it even with doubts, but do it. And if this message touched you, carve it into your mind. Life does not belong to the strongest. It belongs to the one who dares to stop being weak. Imagine yourself walking down a mysterious path. Ahead, there's a door, a gateway to a different future, a new version of who you could become. But every time you try to move forward, something pulls you back. You look down and realize your feet are shackled, not with physical chains, but invisible ones. You want to break free, but you can't, because those chains aren't made of metal. They're made of memory, of emotion, of pain. They are the mental and emotional residue of your past. Stories you carry within, stories you didn't even realize are still writing the script of your present life. And the real question is this: are you truly living in the present, or are you just playing out the echoes of a story that ended long ago? Carl Jung once said, Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And that's exactly what happens with wounds we never truly process. We believe time has healed them, that they belong to the past. But in truth, they're still there, quiet, buried, and active. They shape how we see the world, how we trust, how we love, and even how we define ourselves. Maybe you're still carrying the fear of rejection, because once, long ago, someone made you feel like you weren't enough. Maybe trusting others is difficult, not because they've done anything wrong, but because at some point you learned that love equals pain, that people leave, that opening your heart is dangerous. Or maybe, without even realizing it, you keep repeating the same mistakes, falling into the same patterns, attracting the same conflicts, feeling stuck in a cycle you can't explain. But why does this happen? Why does the past have such a strong grip, even after so much time has passed? Because time alone doesn't heal. You can't simply bury a wound and expect it to stop bleeding. What you repress, what you ignore, what you choose not to face, those things don't vanish. They keep working beneath the surface. They operate from the shadows. They speak through your triggers, your fears, your resistance to change. Jung called it the personal unconscious, a vast archive where every significant experience is stored, especially the ones that left a deep imprint on your psyche. And if those experiences weren't fully processed, if you never gave them the attention they needed, they remain there, unchanged, unresolved, and they continue to influence your emotions, your relationships, your choices. The most dangerous part, you usually don't even realize it's happening. You don't see that you're reacting from an old wound. You don't notice that your lack of confidence, your insecurity, or your need for constant validation isn't about today. It's about yesterday. It's about what happened to you, what you were taught to believe about yourself, and what you decided the world is like based on that pain. So the real question becomes, how much of what you do today is a conscious choice? And how much of it is just a reaction, an echo of what once hurt you? If you pause and reflect, you might begin to see that many of your decisions haven't really been yours, that you've been running from old memories, old pain, old fears, that you've been avoiding situations not because they're unsafe now, but because once they were. And some part of you is still trying to protect yourself from a threat that no longer exists. But here's what you must understand. You can't move forward if you're still shackled to who you used to be. You can't create a new future if your past is the one holding the pen. If you truly want to change your life, you must break the invisible chains. You must take a hard, honest look at the wounds you're still carrying and how they've been shaping you. Because if you don't, if you never confront your past consciously, it will keep repeating itself in different forms, in different relationships, in different challenges, in different moments that all feel strangely familiar. And this is the turning point. Because the first step toward freedom is not forgetting what happened, it's understanding it. But how do you recognize the hidden wounds? How do you know which parts of your past are still controlling you without your awareness? That's where the true transformation begins. And what if I told you that the wounds affecting your life the most aren't the ones you remember? They're the ones you forgot. The most painful experiences don't disappear just because you don't think about them. They don't vanish because you push them away. They get buried. They hide in the deepest corners of your mind. And from there, they whisper into your thoughts, your actions, your identity. They live in your hesitation, in your fear of intimacy, in the way you hold back your truth, in the way you pretend you're fine when you're not. And unless you dig deep enough to find them, to name them, to understand how they've shaped you, they'll keep directing your life without your consent. You'll keep wondering why you're stuck, why change feels so hard, why you keep returning to the same emotional places you swore you'd never go back to. But here's the truth. The past doesn't have to define you, unless you let it. You are not broken. You are not doomed to repeat your suffering. You are capable of rewriting the story. But that story won't change unless you become the author again. So take the time. Go inward. Ask yourself the questions you've been afraid to ask. Face the memories you've buried. Heal not by forgetting, but by understanding. Because the moment you bring the unconscious into the light is the moment you take your power back. Carl Jung referred to this as the shadow. Everything we repress, everything we don't want to accept about ourselves, everything we were taught to hide. Because at some point in our lives, someone told us it was wrong, inappropriate, shameful. And so, out of fear, out of survival, or simply out of conditioning, we pushed it away. We buried it. We denied it. But the most dangerous thing about the shadow is this. Even if you can't see it, it still sees you. If you've ever asked yourself why you keep making the same mistakes, why you find yourself in the same painful relationships, why you tend to sabotage your own progress just when things seem to be going well, the answer isn't out there. It lies within you, in the wounds you never healed. Because what isn't resolved repeats itself. Think of it this way. The unconscious mind doesn't operate in linear time. It doesn't distinguish between past and present the way the conscious mind does. To your unconscious, what happened 10, 20, even 30 years ago is still happening. It's still active, still alive, still influencing your choices, your emotions, your behaviors. When events from your past leave a mark and your mind doesn't fully process them, those experiences get stored like frozen echoes in your psyche. And from there, they shape your present without you realizing it. That's why so many people run from love, not knowing that what they're really running from is a childhood wound, a memory, a fear, a moment where love once hurt them. That's why others feel like they're never enough, because deep within them still echoes the voice of someone who once made them feel worthless. That's why so many desperately seek approval, not because they're shallow or vain, but because they're still trying to fill a void that was created long ago. A hunger for validation that no amount of praise can satisfy. But here's something essential you need to understand. Remembering your past is not the same as being trapped in it. Many believe they've moved on just because they can speak about their pain without crying, or because they can mention what happened without breaking down. But the truth is, they're still reacting from that unhealed place. They're still navigating life through the lens of that pain, with fear, with anger, with insecurity, without even knowing where it all comes from. Because the past doesn't disappear just because you choose not to think about it. It doesn't dissolve when you convince yourself it no longer matters. You don't heal by forgetting. You heal by integrating. You stop being its prisoner when you stop seeing it as something that destroyed you and begin to see it as something that shaped you. The moment you stop running from your past and begin to face it consciously, something within you begins to shift. This is where true transformation begins. The first step to freeing yourself from the grip of your past is to acknowledge how it still operates in your present. If you don't, If you keep turning a blind eye, it will continue to control you, quietly, invisibly, powerfully. So how do you identify those hidden wounds? How do you become aware of the parts of your history that are still scripting your present? That's where the real inner work begins. Look around. Pay attention to the people you attract, the situations that constantly frustrate you, the emotions that show up again and again in your life. Every experience outside of you is a mirror of something inside you. Carl Jung called this psychological projection, the human tendency to see in others what we have not yet acknowledged in ourselves, the things that irritate you most in other people, the dynamics that hurt the most in your relationships, the patterns that make you react impulsively. They don't originate from the outside world. They come from within you. Think about this. Why do some comments cut you deeper than others? Why do certain behaviors from others instantly trigger rage, fear, or sadness in you? It's not because those people have power over you. It's because they've touched a wound that was already there. Someone who was once rejected will see rejection everywhere, interpreting indifference as contempt, distance as abandonment, silence as disapproval. Someone who grew up feeling like they were never good enough will move through life feeling indebted, constantly trying to prove their worth in every interaction. But perhaps the most powerful and painful aspect of projection is this. It makes you unconsciously recreate and attract the same types of experiences over and over again. If someone once made you feel small, invisible, insignificant, there's a part of you, not consciously, but deep in the unconscious, that will gravitate towards situations or people who reinforce that story. Not because you want to suffer, but because your psyche is trying to confirm the narrative it's come to believe as truth. So if you really want to know which past wounds are still alive inside of you, don't just think back. Look around you. What situations hurt the most? Right now? What keeps triggering you emotionally in disproportionate ways? If something bothers you too much, if a situation causes more pain than seems reasonable, ask yourself, where is this really coming from? Because what hurts you today isn't the present. It's the echo of an old pain, a wound that has not yet found its resolution. And here's the key. The world will continue to reflect your inner wounds back to you until you decide to heal them. Life will keep putting mirrors in front of you until you look into them, not to judge yourself, but to finally see yourself with compassion and clarity. So how do you stop projecting? How do you become aware of these hidden parts and break the cycle? This is the beginning of deep introspection, the true journey within. The first step to liberation is not changing your environment. It's transforming your internal landscape. If you want to heal, you must stop running. One of the greatest mistakes we make is believing that pain will disappear if we ignore it long enough, that if we bury it under work, relationships, distractions, or entertainment, it will eventually fade. But pain doesn't work like that. Pain is not meant to be buried. It's meant to be acknowledged, heard, and integrated. What you silence doesn't go away. It waits. It waits for the next trigger, the next moment of vulnerability, the next opportunity to remind you that something inside still needs your attention. You cannot outrun what lives within you, but you can face it. And in doing so, you reclaim your power. Healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It's about bringing light to the parts of you that have been hidden in the dark. It's about embracing your wholeness, shadow and all. And as Jung himself said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This is the work. Not easy, not fast, but deeply, profoundly transformative. Carl Jung believed that the path of individuation, the journey toward becoming your true self, requires you to integrate every part of who you are, even the darkest ones. The shadow, the trauma, the shame, the fear. Everything you've tried to avoid is still there, waiting to be acknowledged. Because what you don't confront controls you. What you don't heal repeats itself. What you don't process stays trapped inside and continues to affect every aspect of your life. And here's the hard truth. Healing hurts. There's no shortcut, no magic pill, no way to bypass the process. The only way to free yourself from your past is to face it with awareness. But most people won't, because facing pain means feeling it again, and that terrifies them. So they bury it beneath distractions. Some avoid it through constant work, others through shallow relationships, or with substances, social media, anything that keeps them from being alone with their thoughts. The problem is, pain doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It builds. It turns into anxiety, depression, chronic dissatisfaction, a hollow emptiness that nothing seems to fill. Maybe you feel like something's missing, even if you can't name it. Maybe you experience intense emotions for no clear reason. You feel overwhelmed, like something in your life just isn't right. That's the past, still alive inside you. But there's a way out. It's simple, though not easy. You have to feel the pain. You have to let yourself remember, without filters, without judgment, without minimizing what happened to you. You have to give it room to rise to the surface. Because pain isn't the enemy. It's a signal, a sign that something inside still needs resolution. If there's one thing that can truly help in this process, it's writing. Grab a piece of paper and write about your deepest wound. No filters, no pauses, no fear. Write about the moment that still hurts. The words you never said. The feelings you never expressed. Write like no one will ever read it. If you feel rage, write it down. If sadness rises, let it out. Don't stop to think how it sounds. Don't try to make it coherent. Just let it pour out. And when you finish, read it out loud. Listen to yourself. Notice how your body reacts. Pay attention to the emotions that come up. Because in those words, there's something your unconscious has been trying to tell you for years. Don't rush to burn the page, to destroy it, to forget it. Give it space. Read it as many times as you need to until you realize those words don't hurt like they used to. Because when you do this, something shifts. The pain stops being a monster in the shadows and becomes part of your story. Something that happened, something you lived, something that shaped you, but no longer has power over you. And here's the key. Pain doesn't heal when you reject it. It heals when you accept it as part of your path. Because when you accept it, when you integrate it, when you stop fearing it, you stop being its prisoner. But there's more. Facing pain once isn't enough. If you truly want to be free, you have to break the cycle of repetition. And that's the next step. If you stop and look at your life honestly, you'll notice something unsettling. The same problems seem to happen again and again. Maybe you've had different partners, but they all ended up making you feel the same way. Abandoned, unappreciated, betrayed. Maybe no matter how hard you try, you always end up in situations where you feel like you're not enough. Or perhaps, every time you try to move forward in life, the same obstacle shows up, just in a different form. Carl Jung called this the compulsion to repeat. We keep attracting the same experiences until we finally learn the lesson we need to evolve. It's not a coincidence. It's not bad luck. It's your unconscious recreating the past, again and again, giving you opportunities to heal what's still unresolved. The problem is, most people don't see it that way. They think the world is against them, that the problem is out there, that it's others who need to change. But the truth is, what you live outside is only a reflection of what still remains unresolved inside. So how do you break the cycle? How can you stop repeating the past and begin writing a new story? The first step is to identify the pattern. If something has happened in your life again and again, it's a sign there's a lesson you haven't yet learned. But to see the pattern, you must do something very few people dare to do. Look at your past with brutal honesty. Take a piece of paper and write down all the painful experiences you've had in recent years, especially the ones that seem to repeat themselves constantly. Now look for the connecting thread. What do those situations have in common? What emotion have they triggered in you over and over again? What types of people or circumstances keep showing up in different stages of your life? When you do this, you'll realize they aren't separate experiences. They are the same story told in different ways. And here's the key. Patterns stop repeating when you finally understand the message they've been trying to show you. If you've always felt like people abandon you, the lesson might be to give yourself the love and safety you've been seeking outside. If you keep ending up in relationships where you're not valued, maybe you haven't yet learned to value yourself enough to walk away. If you feel like you're always failing at what you try, perhaps you've been acting out of fear, sabotaging your chances before they even have a chance to grow. Real freedom comes when you stop seeing these patterns as punishments and start seeing them as guides for your personal growth. You can't change the past, but you can choose not to let it control you anymore. Because once you clearly see the pattern, you can't go on repeating it unconsciously. And right there, in that moment, is when you finally begin to write a new story. If the past no longer defines you, then who are you now? When you finally break the cycle and stop reliving the same stories over and over, you step into a new reality. For the first time, you have the chance to become someone different. But here comes a crucial question. How do you rebuild yourself without the weight of the wounds that once defined you? Carl Jung spoke of psychological rebirth. According to him, when we free ourselves from the past and stop identifying with our wounds, a new version of ourselves is born, one no longer trapped in the story of suffering we used to tell. The problem is, most people don't know how to take that step. After years of carrying emotional burdens, they've grown used to seeing themselves through the lens of pain. They've lived so long defining themselves by what happened to them. They don't know who they are without it. But true transformation happens when you learn to redefine your story through the lens of growth, rather than victimhood. Because what happened to you is undeniable. The wounds exist. The pain was real. But the difference lies in how you choose to interpret your past. You can see it as a tragedy that broke you, or as the trial that made you stronger. You can view it as an injustice that took something from you, or as the experience that taught you what no one else could. And this is where rebirth happens, because when you choose to see your story through the eyes of learning rather than wounding, the past stops being a chain and becomes momentum. But this isn't just a nice idea. It's something you can start to experience right now. Try a simple but powerful exercise. Visualize the version of yourself that no longer carries the weight of the past. Imagine you've already healed, that all the wounds that used to hold you back are behind you, that you no longer react out of fear, no longer live seeking validation, no longer carry resentment or guilt. Now ask yourself, how would that version of me act? How would they move through the world? How would they make decisions? How would they feel waking up each morning? Because if you can imagine it, then that version of you already exists. You just have to begin behaving like them. Don't wait for something outside of you to give you permission to be reborn. Start thinking, acting, and feeling like someone who has already been set free. Because the truth is this, you are not what happened to you. You are who you choose to become starting now. And if you've made it this far, it means you're ready to take the final step, the boldest step of all. Look at yourself now. You've walked a path most don't dare to take. You've faced your past. You've identified the wounds that used to control you. You've realized that what you lived through doesn't define who you are. You've broken the cycle. But here's where many get stuck. They know they've changed, but they don't know how to live as that new version of themselves. Because true transformation doesn't happen when you understand your story. It happens when you decide what to do with it. And here lies the most powerful truth of all. Emotional freedom is real. It's not about forgetting the past. It's about redefining it, transforming it into the fuel that drives your evolution. Your past doesn't have to be a burden. It doesn't have to be a chain around your ankle or a ghost that follows you in silence, whispering doubts every time you try to take a step forward. It can be your greatest source of strength, your hidden well of power. Everything you've lived through, every heartbreak, every failure, every sleepless night where pain seemed endless, none of it was in vain. Each of those moments carries a lesson, a fragment of wisdom forged in fire. And if you choose to, you can use those fragments to build a new foundation. Not one rooted in fear, but one anchored in resilience, self-respect, and the unshakable knowing that you survived. You made it here. But here's the truth. There's a question waiting for you, and only you can answer it. If today, right now, you are completely free from the weight of your past, if guilt no longer controlled you, if shame no longer whispered in your ear, if the pain no longer defined who you are, what would you do with your life? That's not just a question. It's a doorway. You are standing at the threshold of possibility, and the only thing you need to carry through that door is the decision to begin again. Not from nothing, but from experience. Because now, finally, you have a choice. You can keep looking back. You can keep replaying those memories like broken records, hoping for different endings that will never come. Or you can take everything you've learned and turn it into something new. You can use the wisdom earned through your scars to create a future that aligns with who you truly are. Not who you were when you were wounded, but who you are now that you've survived. This is your invitation to become the version of yourself you always dreamed of, the one who lives freely, boldly, without apologies, the one who loves themselves enough to stop bleeding for people who never bothered to heal, the one who knows that transformation doesn't mean forgetting, it means integrating. It means looking your past in the eye and saying, "Thank you. You no longer control me. You shaped me, but you don't define me." And now, the rest of your life is in front of you, open, unwritten, waiting for you to decide. So the real question is no longer, What happened to me? The real question is, what am I going to do with everything I've become? Because the past, it's already done. But your future, your life, is still yours to create. And that power, that responsibility, that freedom is in your hands. A 70-year-old man wakes up every morning at 5 a.m., not because he has somewhere to be, not because someone is waiting for him. He's long past the age of alarms, deadlines, or urgent responsibilities. He rises from bed quietly, makes himself a warm drink, and walks slowly to his favorite chair by the window. He sits there in silence and watches the sun rise, every day without fail for exactly 15 minutes. No phone, no television, just him and the sky. His neighbors whisper that he's eccentric. His family tells him he should be traveling, resting, enjoying retirement properly. But they don't understand. What this man has uncovered is something most people spend their entire lives chasing without ever really finding: a deeper truth about time itself. We think of time as a schedule, a number, a resource. But for this man, time has become something else entirely. He's come to realize, through years of quiet observation, that the way we relate to time is one of the greatest illusions of modern life. And behind that illusion is a hidden wisdom, one that Carl Jung once touched on with great clarity: that time, as we commonly understand it, is not real in the way we assume. There is a paradox in how humans experience time. In childhood and early adulthood, we're in a rush. We want to grow up, skip ahead, reach the next milestone. We dream of finishing school, getting a job, finding love, reaching the weekend. But then something strange happens, often without us even noticing. At some point, we start pleading for time to slow down. We begin to miss the moments we once wished away. That shift is not about nostalgia or getting old. It's something much deeper. It's the soul waking up. Carl Jung would say that this change is not random. It's part of a larger, inner process, the awakening of consciousness. When we are young, we're ruled by the ego and its endless chase for more. But eventually, if we're lucky, we start to sense that we've been running in circles, that the life we were told to want might not be the life we truly need. And that's where time begins to feel different. Our culture tells us to master time, to be more productive, more efficient, more organized. We read books on time management, download apps to optimize every minute, and plan our days down to the second. We talk about time like it's currency, saving it, wasting it, investing it. But Jung saw through all of this. He understood that the real crisis isn't that we have too little time. It's that we've lost connection to what time really is. Because time is not a clock. It's not the ticking of a watch or the movement of the sun across the sky. Time is your awareness, your presence, your ability to be here now fully. And when you start paying attention to this, really paying attention, you'll notice something fascinating. Time stretches. It contracts. It flows differently depending on your state of mind. 1 hour can vanish like smoke when you're with someone you love. The same hour can feel endless when you're stuck in a place you don't want to be. A weekend can feel like a lifetime if you're deeply present, and a year can disappear in a blur if you're just going through the motions. This elasticity of time isn't a trick of the brain. It's a clue. It tells us that real time, lived time, doesn't follow the rules we think it does. It follows the rhythm of the soul. Imagine this: 2 people, both 40 years old. One has lived each day awake, fully engaged, choosing where to place their energy. The other has coasted through decades, doing what was expected, putting off their dreams, waiting for someday. Chronologically, they are the same age, but in lived experience, they are worlds apart. Jung believed that not all years are equal. 1 year of conscious living is worth more than 10 years of sleepwalking through life. The difference isn't in how long you've been alive. It's in how deeply you've participated in your own existence. It's in how present you've been, how many moments you've actually tasted, felt, and inhabited. And that's why the man at the window wakes up at 5 a.m. Not because he has to, but because he wants to witness life in its rawest, most unfiltered form. Because in those 15 minutes, watching the sky shift from darkness to light, he experiences something pure, something sacred. He's not watching time pass. He's meeting it face to face. When we begin to approach time this way, everything changes. The stress to be constantly productive fades. The obsession with the future softens. We no longer rush through the present to get somewhere else. We begin to understand that life isn't happening later. It's happening now. And every moment we're not present for is a moment lost forever. So pause. Breathe. Consider your own relationship with time. How much of your day is truly lived, not just passed through? How often are you present with the people you love, with your own thoughts, with the sky outside your window? The man watching the sunrise has found a rhythm that modern life has buried. And maybe, if we're willing to listen, not with our ears, but with our hearts, we can find it too. Not by doing more, but by being more aware, more open, more alive. Because in the end, time is not something outside of us. It's something we become. When do you feel time slows down for you? When does it seem to speed up? What patterns arise when you observe these moments honestly? The answers to these questions reveal something profound. Your true values, not the ones you claim to have, but the ones you are actually living. Time expands when we align with what truly matters to us, and it contracts when we become disconnected from our authentic purpose. Modern society has developed a deeply distorted relationship with time, one that Carl Jung would undoubtedly find absurd. We live under the illusion that we can multiply time by doing more things at once, that we can save it by becoming more efficient, or that we can recover it by working longer hours or moving faster. But this way of thinking comes from a mistaken view of what it means to be alive. We treat time as if it were an engineering problem, something to be controlled or optimized, rather than recognizing it as the very medium through which we experience existence. It's like trying to optimize love or manage beauty. These are things that resist being confined to formulas. And because of that confusion, many people reach the end of their lives having been hyper-efficient, yet deeply unfulfilled. They gained time, but lost meaning. They perfected the means, but forgot the ends. Look closely at the rhythm around you, at the conversations you overhear every day. How many revolve around being busy? How many people use the word busy as if it meant important or valuable? This modern equation, busy equals worthy, is one of the most expensive confusions of our time. And the hardest truth to accept is that many of us fill our time not because what we do has real value, but because we don't know how to face silence, the void, the dizziness we feel when we meet ourselves in the present moment. Carl Jung spoke clearly about this. Nothing truly belongs to us except time. Yet that is precisely what we hand over to others with terrifying speed. We give it away to bosses who disrespect our boundaries, to empty social obligations, to distractions that numb us, to anxieties about things we can't control. And that speaks volumes about our human condition. We prefer the stress of being overloaded to the responsibility of consciously choosing how we want to live. We'd rather complain about not having time than face the real question, what do I want time for? Truly, because that's where everything begins. That's where our understanding of time becomes real. Time is not something we have, it's something we are. It's not a possession, it's our very mode of being. We are time incarnate, consciousness unfolding moment by moment, breathing life into each instant. And when we truly grasp this, it transforms the way we inhabit the world. Each moment becomes a chance to be who we consciously choose to be. There is no distance between me and time. There is only pure presence manifesting now. Carl Jung understood this deeply. That's why he believed every day holds the potential of a complete life, not as a poetic metaphor, but as lived reality. Each day contains birth, growth, fullness, and death. Every day can be a whole existence if we live it with total awareness. People who understand this don't postpone their happiness, their love, or their dreams. They aren't waiting for more time to finally do what matters. They realize the moment to act is this one, right now. This conversation, this decision, this breath. This is where life is happening fully. Take a moment to reflect. How many times have you postponed meaningful experiences, waiting for the right time? How often have you said, when I finish this, when I have more time, when the kids grow up, when I retire? All those whens are part of a common illusion. The belief that a perfect future will arrive, where we'll finally have permission to truly live. But the truth, however painful, is that this perfect future never comes. There will always be new excuses to keep waiting. And meanwhile, life, the only one we get, is slipping through our fingers in the very present we're ignoring. Pause and look at how you relate to all this. What parts of a meaningful life are you putting off? What important conversations are you avoiding? What experiences are you saving for someday? Truly understanding time doesn't erase our delays because we become impulsive, but because we realize something far deeper. The present is the only place where life truly unfolds. According to Carl Jung, transforming our relationship with time doesn't require complex methods or sophisticated techniques. What it demands is a radical shift in awareness, a move from measuring life by quantity to living it by quality. We must replace the obsession with efficiency with an authentic search for presence. Shift constant activity into a clear sense of purpose. And the first step is to develop what Jung might call temporal awareness, the capacity to honestly and clearly observe how we're investing our life, moment by moment. It's not about judging everything we do. It's about learning to pay deeper attention to where our energy goes and why. There's a simple yet powerful practice that can change everything. Before committing to any activity, pause and ask yourself one concrete question. Does this deserve a piece of my life? Not, do I have time for this? The real question is this worth a fragment of my existence? The difference between those two questions is vast. The first treats time as something external, like money to be managed. The second recognizes that time is your very life, and every commitment is an existential decision about how your story unfolds. From this perspective, many of the things we do out of habit or social pressure lose their meaning. Seriously, does that meeting really need your conscious presence? Does that show you watch on autopilot each night enrich your sense of being alive? Does that same old conversation add anything to your existence. And remember, this isn't about becoming a monk who renounces all pleasures and human connections. It's about choosing from clarity, from a place where you know what truly matters to you, and you consciously decide how to invest the most precious currency you possess, your presence. The second essential aspect is learning to fully inhabit the present moment. It doesn't matter which activity you choose. If you decide to wash the dishes, do it with full attention. If you choose to spend time with a friend, let your mind be nowhere else. If you're working on a project, let your engagement be total. Because when we are fully present, even the most mundane tasks are transformed, not by what we do, but by the quality of awareness we bring to the moment. And when someone truly understands this, their life begins to change, quietly but radically. What's interesting is that they may not change what they do. They may keep the same job, the same relationships, the same responsibilities, but something deep transforms in the way they live it. First, that chronic feeling of not having enough time disappears, not because they magically gain more hours in a day, but because every hour is lived so intensely that it becomes enough. The anxiety about time simply dissolves when we realize we always have exactly the time we need to fully live this moment. Second, our decisions become far clearer. When every choice is filtered through the question, does this deserve part of my life? Our priorities naturally rearrange. The superficial falls away effortlessly. What truly matters becomes as clear as crystal. Third, our relationships deepen in incredible ways. Because when we're genuinely present with others, not mentally stuck in the past or anticipating the future, a type of connection emerges that transforms. Others feel it. They sense our attention and respond with more authenticity, more openness. And finally, a peace arises that depends on nothing external. A peace that comes from knowing we're living authentically, that we're not postponing what's important, that every day we live contains a real possibility of wholeness. This transformation doesn't eliminate life's challenges, but it deeply changes the way we relate to them. Problems still show up. Responsibilities still remain. Difficulties still arise. But we no longer react from the anxiety of time. We respond from presence, from a place of focused calm. Now imagine what it would be like to live each day with that kind of temporal awareness. To wake up each morning, not with the panic of all you have to do, but with the question, how do I want to invest my life today? If every conversation became a chance for real connection, not just something to get through before moving on to the next thing. Reflect. When was the last time you lived like that? When did time feel abundant? Not because you had more hours, but because you were fully engaged with what you were living. Those moments weren't accidents. They were glimpses of what life can be when you understand the real value of time. Throughout this entire journey, we haven't talked about time management. What we've explored is something far deeper, an existential revolution, an awakening, a clear realization that you don't have time. You are time. Consciousness unfolding second by second in the experience of being alive. And Carl Jung, with his timeless insight, left us with a truth we should never forget. Life is not measured in years, but in moments of authentic presence. It's not the amount of time that defines a fulfilled life. It's the quality of awareness with which we inhabit each instant. Understanding this changes everything, because each moment we live becomes a complete opportunity to be who we truly choose to be. And this shift doesn't demand a total transformation of our external circumstances. What it does require is a profound change in the way we are present in the world, a move from distraction to focus, from postponing life to actually living it, from anxiety to the peace of knowing we are already living authentically. There comes a moment, brief, fleeting, and yet profoundly transformative, when the veil of illusion is lifted. That illusion is the belief in someday. Someday when things are perfect. Someday when I feel ready. Someday when life aligns just right. But here's the radical truth. Someday doesn't exist. It's a myth we cling to. A 70-year-old man wakes up every morning at 5 a.m., not because he has somewhere to be, not because someone is waiting for him. He's long past the age of alarms, deadlines, or urgent responsibilities. He rises from bed quietly, makes himself a warm drink, and walks slowly to his favorite chair by the window. He sits there in silence and watches the sun rise, every day without fail, for exactly 15 minutes. No phone, no television, just him and the sky. His neighbors whisper that he's eccentric. His family tells him he should be traveling, resting, enjoying retirement properly. But they don't understand. What this man has uncovered is something most people spend their entire lives chasing without ever really finding: a deeper truth about time itself. We think of time as a schedule, a number, a resource. But for this man, time has become something else entirely. He's come to realize, through years of quiet observation, that the way we relate to time is one of the greatest illusions of modern life. And behind that illusion is a hidden wisdom, one that Carl Jung once touched on with great clarity: that time, as we commonly understand it, is not real in the way we assume. There is a paradox in how humans experience time. In childhood and early adulthood, we're in a rush. We want to grow up, skip ahead, reach the next milestone. We dream of finishing school, getting a job, finding love, reaching the weekend. But then something strange happens, often without us even noticing. At some point, we start pleading for time to slow down. We begin to miss the moments we once wished away. That shift is not about nostalgia or getting old. It's something much deeper. It's the soul waking up. Carl Jung would say that this change is not random. It's part of a larger, inner process, the awakening of consciousness. When we are young, we're ruled by the ego and its endless chase for more. But eventually, if we're lucky, we start to sense that we've been running in circles, that the life we were told to want might not be the life we truly need. And that's where time begins to feel different. Our culture tells us to master time, to be more productive, more efficient, more organized. We read books on time management, download apps to optimize every minute, and plan our days down to the second. We talk about time like it's currency, saving it, wasting it, investing it. But Jung saw through all of this. He understood that the real crisis isn't that we have too little time. It's that we've lost connection to what time really is. Because time is not a clock. It's not the ticking of a watch or the movement of the sun across the sky. Time is your awareness, your presence, your ability to be here now fully. And when you start paying attention to this, really paying attention, you'll notice something fascinating. Time stretches. It contracts. It flows differently depending on your state of mind. 1 hour can vanish like smoke when you're with someone you love. The same hour can feel endless when you're stuck in a place you don't want to be. A weekend can feel like a lifetime if you're deeply present, and a year can disappear in a blur if you're just going through the motions. This elasticity of time isn't a trick of the brain. It's a clue. It tells us that real time, lived time, doesn't follow the rules we think it does. It follows the rhythm of the soul. Imagine this. Two people, both 40 years old. One has lived each day awake, fully engaged, choosing where to place their energy. The other has coasted through decades, doing what was expected, putting off their dreams, waiting for someday. Chronologically, they are the same age, but in lived experience, they are worlds apart. Jung believed that not all years are equal. 1 year of conscious living is worth more than 10 years of sleepwalking through life. The difference isn't in how long you've been alive. It's in how deeply you've participated in your own existence. It's in how present you've been, how many moments you've actually tasted, felt, and inhabited. And that's why the man at the window wakes up at 5 a.m. Not because he has to, but because he wants to witness life in its rawest, most unfiltered form. Because in those 15 minutes, watching the sky shift from darkness to light, he experiences something pure, something sacred. He's not watching time pass. He's meeting it face to face. When we begin to approach time this way,